Hello, I'm Sora Luxon, and this is a tarot card 8 of Cups. One of the most misinterpreted, usually due to lack of actual occulted or hermetic knowledge, cards in all of the tarot. You will hear people tell you that this card has to do with leaving a bad situation behind, or finding a new job, or coming back into your intuition. None of that's actually based on any sort of depth of arcana or esoteric knowledge. So, what all too many people inaccurately misread as the quote unquote depart card, that isn't what this card means. It never has. This is what I call the restless card or fidgety card. It's a lack of appreciation card, or entitlement breeds neediness of the self. Because when this card shows up, it usually has to do with a querent who's happy to just throw good things aside as soon as they get them. And that doesn't really have to do with traveling to another state to find a new job, that you should take that leap. That's not what this card is telling you. Or that you should leave a bad emotional relationship behind for bigger and brighter things. That's also not what's being referred to here. I tend to hear the whisper of the sacred water 8, the eternal 8, infinity, in a reading when the querent also happens to be one of those everyday a new way type spiritual searchers. You see a lot of that with neophytes and people seeking their path, jumping from one method to another constantly, like they're running a marathon of self-help guru books, right? Or jumping from and joining new religions every day of the week, or a new club or a group, a technique or practice they like better. It's like they're Baskin Robin flavors to be speed sample, and that's how these people behave with them, right? You know what that does to you? If you speed sample a lot of ice cream flavors, brain freeze. That is what happens. Eventually, what you're doing is going to result in a painful ouch, 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 just stop and slow down and wait, you fool type moment. The ever journey to is being hinted at, but that's what that is. It's not a departure card, it's the ever journey with no end in sight. So very much the grass is always greener type mentality, where a person fails to see through what is in front of them and is constantly ready to just move on from it, and then move on again and again without settling to process the goal of attainment. And there's a real pain and misery being advised of for the person who's constantly fretting, fidgeting, and because of that fretting, always moping, hiking on harsh terrain in the dark endlessly to find more or better, and then never having it be good enough and leaving that behind for whatever's over the next hill. If you constantly feel like you have to move on from environments, people, or situations because you can't cope, and you're repeating that pattern eternally, repeating it again by departing again is not going to help. Sometimes this reveals itself as the character trait in a lesser way, on a lesser scale, of those who constantly pick up new hobbies and then just drop them for another one. I'll get that a lot in a reading with someone who just happens to be that way. Without ever getting good at any one thing, they just constantly leave it behind and change their minds and start something else and then don't finish it either. Or constantly change careers without staying long enough in one for success to be had, to be garnered. Lusting after material wealth and riches can be a very depressing and exhausting trial to subject oneself to. And it's very difficult to remain interested in anything if every new thing has to be discarded, just immediately tossed aside so that something else that is hopefully better can be searched for. Here we see success abandoned. It is the Lord of abandoned success. That is the Eight of Chalices, where Saturn and Pisces from the 1st to 10th degrees was building towards a peak, but without seeing it through, and now with their head hung, has turned from the task without completing it. Whatever the matter at hand was or is, and whatever success might be thought to be had in the short term, it isn't lasting on the banks of this rocky shore. Perhaps to give up and wander off, maybe that's what they're doing. Perhaps to seek out more necessary resources to gather for the whole because they think they need them. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But either way, what was headed for fulfillment is now being strayed from and left behind in the dirt. These chalices are empty. And also notice how barren the ground, despite the nearness to available water. These waters don't flow freely. So clearly an attempt at something was being made, but there's stagnation. That success was temporary and it was left incomplete. It isn't vital and it didn't grow. The seeker here brought together these grails, but then is seemingly fine with just leaving them behind entirely without any attempt to use or carry them forward. Perhaps more than anything, Had of He, the Eight of Chalices, with its heavy displayed emotions, speaks to us of instability, both internally and situationally. Would you want to stand on that partially formed and gapped pyramid being built? No. So what to do? If you're looking at the Eight of Cups, then you've turned your back on what was. That could be a positive or negative thing. It's usually a negative thing. This isn't a bright, shiny card. Whether it's good or bad, it's happening. You're not going to be able to see clearly on the night sky darkened path that your feet walk on now. And the way will not necessarily be easy. This isn't a friendly, welcoming green garden path, right? The Magi is moving on. It's not even a path, but just a hard general direction. A direction moving away from the subconscious emotive and intuitive influences, the lunar qualities of the moon's sway. Notice how the moonlight doesn't light the peak on the side of the card this traveler has chosen. If you're off track, yes, it is best to lean on the vital forces, energies of the stave. But a walking stick can only help you walk. It can't help you find your way forward. If you ever want to succeed in your task or have some rest, you're going to need to take a good hard look at the choices and behaviors that led you out into this dreary place to try to complete this task to begin with, so that you can find your way with a compass rather than just a walking stick to somewhere better. The Eight of Cups reversed. Again, not great. Idleness, laziness, sloth, general indolence. That is the esoteric meaning and principle behind this card. That isn't an awesome host of traits to fall prey to. So now is the time to get moving, get to work, get to taking action. Give up boredom and unhappiness for an adventure or the excitement of something new. If you're dissatisfied, it could be because of a deep emotional and spiritual cause you haven't reflected on. Right? You're not gazing into that pool to mirror yourself. You're walking away from it backwards now. So seek a higher purpose. Let go of the material constraints and demands placed on you by yourself or others. Stop focusing on wealth. Life is temporary, and so is the material within it. Focus instead on the wealth of wisdom, evolution, and ascension to be gained by improving the non-material self. Whatever you do, it's time to have a clear-cut goal about it and head that way firmly with purpose. Don't be afraid of what you may have to lose to go find where you are actually meant to be. Make a choice, have courage, and take the journey. There's no reason a setback has to ruin everything. Be resilient, and you can and will convert adversity into accomplishment. Until next time.